Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders Show.
Hey, GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey, kids. Welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your 100% unbiased, completely impartial, and kind of in a funk co-host, Old Man shouting at clouds. And unusually this week, with me, also joining in with the wails of anguish and the gnashing of teeth and rending of garments, is MJ.
Hi, everyone. Yes, quite so. I just want to take a moment to say it is Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I'm a settler, and I am so privileged to live, work, and watch football on treaty lands.
Well said.
Well said.
Try and follow that up, G.
I've got nothing that can follow that up because it's so well said. I will only say I'm welcome to be back. I'm not quite as despondent as it appears you two are, but I'm not real happy.
Yeah. Well, for the first time this week, or first time this year, none of our teams got the CFL Outsiders bump. It was a bit of a tough week, but we'll get to that. Couple of things first. I'm going to say right at the start here, I do this usually at the end, and most of you have turned out. So I'm going to remind you, now's a good time to subscribe. If you haven't yet, subscribe. That way you're in solidarity with us on the whole CFL and the rules change and everything like that. And, if we just piss you off, subscribe anyway, because you like that. That's why you come on in. Or subscribe because you'll make an old man happy. But please do. Subscribe and like and comment and all that stuff. Get that out of the way early. But we also have, this is from last week, and it's more sad news. Unfortunately, we learned late last week that the new owner, the year owner of the Edmonton Elk, Larry Thompson, passed away. I'm told it was complications after surgery. He was 65 years of age, and we, of course, want to join the rest of the CFL community in sending out our condolences and best vibes, best thoughts to the Thompson family, their friends, the Elks organization. 65 is far too young to pass. And I guess the best thing that can be said is it was obvious that he was a lifelong lover of the Edmonton football organization. And I'm glad he got a year there running it. Anything else to add, or? Okay.
No, I'm also glad to hear that his family intends to maintain the ownership and carry forward with Larry's plans, that they're not going to move on, that they're not going to move away from the organization. So that's very good news for the league in a sad situation. So,
yes, I agree. It's excellent news for the league, but overshadowed by what made it happen.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll move on quickly. My weekly fantasy update. I believe I'm in the playoffs. Hey, raise the roof. Woo, woo, woo. We not official yet. And there's a lot of gazinzas and gazutzas and math to be done on it, but I did the best I could. And I believe there's the top 8 make the playoffs. I was hanging on to 8. I think I jumped up to 7th this week. Nice. So no idea who I'll be playing in the first round, but fingers crossed, unless there was major point adjustments by the CFL or I got something wrong, I think we're in. And I did that with 98.5 points, which was not bad. I was over Cooper Trooper 42, who I think is Ryan Coop out of Canadian Football Countdown. He's usually very good, and he was only 93.6. So not bad for me. I managed to be smart about picking Nathan and Hatcher with him. In fact, we had, when I looked at it afterwards, Cooper Trooper and I had 3 different players. The rest we'd all picked the same, so it really came down to just which one of those players did the best, and I think going with Jake Kerslow, Jumpin' Jake, helped me. How about the two of you? Teams this week?
No, I didn't play this week.
I
Okay.
had 107.6 points.
My gosh, look at you. You guys are just starting up and thumping me.
Who did I have?
Congratulations.
Well, I had Rourke as my captain. I figured out how to do captains this week. And I had, who else got me lots of points? I had Bell, I had Philpott, I had Smith. I kind of went on the Ticats. I thought they were gonna.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of made mockery of what I said last week about I always, in doubt, go back to Bo because he always performs.
Yeah. I went with the Canadian.
Yeah. Well, hey, it was that kind of week. Nobody really blew up anywhere, so it was a matter of making up your points wherever you could. That's why a score over 100 is pretty good. I don't think many people were getting up over about 130 this week. All right, and next up the agenda here. Few mistakes last week, so it's mea culpa time.
We're sorry, so sorry.
This one's on me. I mistakenly called Rod Smith, right? That's who it is. I'm apologizing for the proper. I mistakenly called Rod Smith Rod Peterson, so Rod Peterson, I'm sorry. I would also like to apologize to the Rouge for anything I said about it, because after listening to all of my American friends and American podcasters who talked about CFL and how much they love the Rouge, I actually felt quite bad that I had said anything negative about it.
Well, anything from you this week, GT, or were you good?
I've had no comments that told me I wasn't, so I'm going to say I'm good.
Okay. And personally, I talked about Ricky Ray at the rush end in Saskatchewan, which was fairly silly to even picture. And of course, I meant Shane Ray, as was out with injury. And then I also noticed that this probably happens more than I catch, but there were at least 2 or 3 times where I was in a game and ended up mentioning the completely wrong team. We were talking, I don't know, like Saskatchewan and Edmonton, and I'd throw a Montreal in there or something. So I apologize if I've confused anyone with that. I'll try to do my best to avoid it in the future, but as I tell the goddess here, if you're going to understand me, you got to listen to what I mean, not what I say. All right. Now, you mentioned, MJ, the Truth and Reconciliation Day. Did we want to talk a little bit more about that and stuff that was done?
Yeah, I would love to. So today is Truth and Reconciliation Day, and it's something that we should all be learning and growing from. The league, I will say this, I give the league a lot of crap a lot of time, and Truth and Reconciliation is something they do extremely well. And it grows each year, and every year it just becomes more and more. So I just wrote down some things. There's lots of videos. There's lots of social media about this. You can look at it. Lots of players are posting, coaches, teams. But I just wanted to highlight a few things that the league did this year. So this year, they had the orange laces on the footballs, which was new for this year. I love that. The teams are wearing their orange warm-up jerseys, and everyone had their logos. And I mean, the Elks logo alone, I wish was their regular logo. And actually, the guy who, I think his name's Conrad, I should have looked it up. I'm so sorry. But he designed the Elks logo, and he was at the game on Saturday, and he was in attendance. So he was posting about that, and it was just really cool to see something like live in action like that. A lot of the teams had, before the game or for halftime, they had drummers and people in their regalia, and it was just really incredible to watch. It always gives me goosebumps. And the refs had orange whistles, and this year they had the Every Child Matters on the back of their referee shirts, which was really cool to see. And Ben Major spoke he's done this, I think this is the second or third year he's done this, where he's done the first penalty in Ojibwe. And what a gem of a man. Like, that takes a lot of guts, and he did it, and he always does such a great job. And then I don't know if you've seen the new merch that's out this week. All these teams put out like hoodies and t-shirts and toques and jerseys with the indigenous logos on them, and they are gorgeous. And I just wish, maybe this is just because it's my household who has 3 to 4 teams that I need to buy for, but I wish there was just a central location where I could buy everything without having to pay $20 shipping to each team store. But go take a look, because the merchandise is beautiful. And I think a lot of them are donating some proceeds from that merchandise to different charities and organizations.
The Argos this year are mailing everyone, all season ticket holders, a patch of the Indigenous logo, which I really like the Argos Indigenous logo. And so I don't know what it's going to look like. And now that we have a mail strike, I don't know when we're going to receive it because they said they were mailing it. So that'll be interesting. But nonetheless, that's very good. I wish that the two things about the shipping that you mentioned, MJ. Number one is absolutely the CFL should have a central spot that you can buy merch from. It's another thing that's not hard to fix, and they should have fixed a long time ago, just so that you don't have to pay $20 for each thing. And then I wish there was one T-shirt with all the logos on it, or the complete league-wide logos across the back or across the front. And they don't have to be huge, just enough that you could fit all 9, and then, some central CFL logo in Indigenous kind of lettering or whatever below it would be terrific. And I would have one of those for sure. And lastly, just on a Truth and Reconciliation Day, as a day, I know there are still some people that for some reason don't feel like we need a day. And I have always said, since we decided to do this day, which I believe is a great idea and the government made the right decision, I just think they timed it wrong. If I was the government, I would have done it on Victoria Day. I would have just scrapped Victoria Day and made it Truth and Reconciliation. If you really want to get rid of something, you really want to say something, get rid of a dead queen that was the leader of most of the time that we had the biggest issues in this country and across the British Empire, and make that Truth and Reconciliation Day instead of yet another day that really, that's what I don't agree with. We didn't need another day. We should have just made it instead of Victoria Day. But that's my 2 cents.
Yes, and I can go along with that. I think it would have been a powerful statement. Frankly, from where I'm sitting, it didn't make a difference. But for those folks who still work for a living, they may want that extra day off during the year. Who knows?
Well, not everyone gets it. And unfortunately, like most holidays, it's a day off that nobody pays attention to. It's the same reason I really don't want Remembrance Day to become a national holiday, because then no one pays attention to it at all. It's just another day off. And so I would rather it be a day that is recognized and is separate and is something that we do talk about, not just forget about and name it after a case of beer.
Yeah, I agree. I went a little lighthearted with that, and perhaps I shouldn't have. But no, I do agree. Yeah, I'm glad they did it. Anything that adds more punch to that message is great. And as far as the CFL went, I think you covered off most of it, except for the fact that, they do a great job. And my opinion, there's probably 4 of maybe 5 of the logos that I almost would like to see better than their everyday ones, because those are really fantastic. And then the other thing that I did notice was, again, the Bombers brought down, I think it was about 2,000 families, kids, and that, gave them a full session. And the Grand Chief was on the broadcast talking about, for a lot of them, it's the first time they'd ever been into a big city at all, even. So that experience just has to be incredible. And applause to the CFL for what they do there. That I haven't been shy about saying they've disappointed me some in the last few years, but that is a fantastic initiative.
And the Bombers consistently hit it out of the park. They are just above and beyond. Like, that organization deserves a lot of props.
And speaking of good organizations, the other thing that came out on the weekend, in counterpoint to the Argos, who are going to only play 3 home games next year because of the World Cup, the Lions are also in that situation for 2 of their games, and they've opted to play them in the province of BC. So I should have had the dates here. I don't, but look it up if you're in BC and close by here, or you want to get tickets. We'll definitely be doing that for the Kelowna game, but they're going to do 1 in Kelowna and 1 in Langford.
2 in Kelowna.
Are they doing 2 in Kelowna now? I'd heard 1.
They're going to play Edmonton and Calgary in Kelowna.
Well, thank you for that. See, I'm close by, and I'd only heard the 1, so that's good. My only concern there is I don't know how they're going to set up and shuttle people in, because they're playing at the Apple Bowl. The Apple Bowl seats are right now about 2,500, maybe 3,000, and they say they're going to bump that up to about 20,000. But the parking for it doesn't support
what Mar Doman can do, though.
Yes.
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit with him. I'm not
Yeah.
concerned at all.
No, I'm not either, but it is the one wrinkle in it because the parking lot that supports the Apple Bowl probably supports about 150 cars. So if they're bringing 20,000 people in, they're going to have to do some serious negotiating with the city, and I imagine they'll probably find a drop-off point on the west side and north of town and that for vehicles, and then just bus people in. That's kind of what they did at Touchdown Atlantic. So thank you, 2 games. Hey, even better. And sorry, who did you say they were playing?
Edmonton and Calgary.
Well, that's going to be a tough choice.
I think they're hoping that some
Maybe
people
they'll go
from
to both.
Alberta will also come out for those games.
Yeah, I'll see how how it looks like, what the interest is like. In some ways, I hate to go to both and cut somebody else out of getting a chance to see one, but I'll figure that out. We're going to at least one.
Okay, before you get yourself in trouble and have to do another mea culpa next week, Toronto is not playing only 3 home games next week or next year, as you said. They're playing 3 games on the road that they're calling home games. So there are 3 games on the road: Saskatchewan, Hamilton, and Winnipeg, as we talked about, and they're calling those home games. But yes, so they're both have 3 games away from their stadiums. BC's just done a much better job of locating those 3 games. So
thank you.
Honestly, this announcement this week makes MLSE look silly.
Yes, it does.
They look so silly. I think they forgot they had a team and then scrambled.
Yes. Yeah. No, yes, I know. Anyway, what else did we have here? Oh, I imagine you're probably best positioned to give us your take on this, GT. There was a big trade between the Stamps and the Red Blacks this week.
Absolutely. It was a big trade, actually. It solves a lot of, well, I don't know if it solves, but it certainly improves the Stampeders' defensive line, which has been a big issue in the last 3 games. And because between Hutchins and Formulade both being injured at various times, it's shown that they needed, both of those players and both of those positions to be better. Certainly, Lorenzo Malden has been an all-star twice, led the league in sacks with 18 the first year he was in Ottawa. And yeah, he's declined a bit, but it was interesting today in his interview post-practice, his first practice in Calgary. He said he just didn't fit in the scheme that they're running in Ottawa now. So he feels like, that was the issue, not the fact that he's lost an edge. So we'll see how he fits in the Calgary scheme. But certainly he's it's a good trade, and they gave up a 4th round and pick in the 2026 draft, so it didn't cost them a lot. And yeah, I think it's a good deal for the Stampeders. And I don't know what that says about what the Red Blacks are thinking now. They justified it by saying they have a young player that they want to get younger, but it's a weird time to get younger at this point of the season, unless you're already saying it doesn't matter. So that may be the message.
I laughed when I saw this because we had talked about how nobody was sellers, and I was like, I'm like, the Red Blacks are sellers now.
Yes, they are.
And
go ahead, MJ.
No, that
Sorry,
just makes me wonder if the Argos are next to be selling. So we'll see.
Yeah, possibly. Given the field goal kicking this weekend, there may be a few people wanting to talk about Hiralahu. But no, I agree. I think it was a great trade. It's obvious that loss of Orimolade has really impacted how teams are able to block up the Calgary front and has made them less effectual. But if Lorenzo can go in there and give even 3/4 of the push they get out of Orimolade and command some double teams, it should help put them back on track. And the other side of it that I heard is, frankly, we're at a point where we've got 4 games left, I think, for everybody in the season, and then he's a free agent. And it doesn't look like they're making the playoffs, so if the Red Blacks can get something out of him, rather than just losing him on the market, they may as well.
It'd be amazing how much better he plays when he's on a contender.
Yeah, exactly. See what happens, because he with Ottawa, he was great, but like you said, they've changed up their defensive coordinators since then and running different schemes, and who knows, you look at Cam Judge this year in Toronto, he is just playing lights out. He's getting a bit up there in age and he's looking fantastic. And he was back with Toronto, was it 4 or 5 years ago, and barely made the field just because he didn't fit the scheme that they were running at the time. So That's got a lot to do with it. There were a couple other releases today. I put them down as notable releases, but I don't know if they are. But it's interesting as teams are getting ready for the postseason and expanding their practice rosters, the ones that are saying, okay, these are guys that aren't doing what we need. And the one was Jonathan Jones in Winnipeg, who they signed as a free agent out of the Argos in the linebacker spot. Haven't needed him much this year. And then the other one was Kosionyeka out of Saskatchewan. And he'd been playing the last couple of games as safety because Lacombo and Ford were both out, and he did not look good in that game this weekend. So I think that was where they decided time to cut the losses there. So I find those notable coming up this time of the year. Also, we were talking about this stuff, and GT, you sent me a text about talking about maybe we should think about the trades we'd like to make.
Yeah, I just thought that, with the trade deadline tomorrow and the fact that there usually isn't a lot of big trades, I think the one over the weekend between Calgary and Ottawa was a bit of a surprise. So I thought, you know what, we should just come up with one trade we'd like to see, that whether it be for your team or whether it be for another team just because you like it, whether it be for chaos because you think you need that 12-person deal, or whether you just are a 4-team trade, or whether you just think this would be a trade that would make sense at this time of year, either for the next 5 games in the playoffs or going forward. So I thought I would throw it open and then I would finish. So who would like?
Do you want to go first, MJ, or do you want me to?
Can. I was just thinking, yeah. So my interest, I think you might talk about kickers, so I will talk about QBs. I was just thinking that Calgary or Winnipeg needs a backup, especially Calgary if they think they're going to make a push. So I'm wondering if one of those two are talking to the Alouettes about Cameron Dukes, because he is still on their roster and they don't need him anymore.
And who might you see them offering up?
Honestly, I think it's just going to be a draft pick. I don't think it's going to be anyone of note. I think they just need, what's Cameron's contract? He's probably just to the end. They just need a warm body that can do a CFL scheme and go out if necessary.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I thought about this, and my first reaction was I thought the trade I'd like to see would be Chad Kelly going to Buffaloes for an extra 5 points on the merchandise that MLSE sells, but that seemed a little irreverent to me. So when I looked at this as an actual trade that I thought could happen and could help both teams right now, I would see it. I'm putting it on surprise. One side is the Riders because I'm fairly intimate with what they have there, and the other side is the Alouettes. And I would like to see the Riders send Sam Emelis to the Alouettes in return for Marc-Antoine Dequoy, because the Owls could use a little more help in their receiving corps still. The Riders are stacked, and the Riders haven't been real great at safety for the last couple of years. They've had Lacombo in, and he's serviceable. Dequoy would be much better. So I think that would be a win-win.
Yeah, that's a good one.
See if they're listening.
That's a good one, because that's how I was trying to look at it as well, as to who needs what and how you would make that work. And then I went through each team and said, okay, who would I like to have? Who would I get if I was making a trade for my team, for the Stampeders? Who would I look at? And I came up with 3 guys, as much as anything, actually 4, that I would list that I thought I would really like to have them on my team. The first guy that I would like to have is Joel DeBlanco. I would like to get him out of Edmonton. I think when they get their linebacking core back, he's going to be again relegated to a part-time position. And Calgary really needs to increase their Canadian linebacker. Micah Tice has been there, but he's not going to be there, and he's not the guy that you need either in the short term or the long term. So I think somebody like DeBlanco would fit in there really, really well. The other player that I thought that they could, but they're not going to get him. That's a kind of a pie in the sky. The other one that I thought they might be able to get is out of Montreal. I thought they might be able to get Tyrell Richards, who was the number 1 pick 3 years ago, but basically hasn't seen a lot of the field, but still is a very good linebacker, and it's certainly an upgrade from Micah Tice. So I thought that might be somebody that they could probably pry away for less of a price, say a 3rd-round pick, or, as you mentioned, another Canadian receiver. I don't know that Calgary has that many, but they might be able to get something out of that right now. The 2 other guys that I thought were basically are also untouchable, but would fit in really well. I'd love to get Evan Holma somehow out of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I just think he's such a tremendous defensive back. I'd love to get, I'd like to really get, because again, we need defensive linemen. I'd like to get Baldwin-Otto out of Saskatchewan. I don't think that's completely unattainable, but I do think it would cost you a lot because he is a global impact player. So it would cost you, even though Saskatchewan's really deep and they on the defensive line. And lastly, the guy that for the futures that I would like to get is I'd really like to somehow get Tucker Horn out of Toronto as the quarterback going forward. I was raving about him in the preseason, and I still like him a lot. And I really think he has potential more than what they've got there right now going forward. So that's another one that I think, I don't think he's available, but I would like to get. So the one that's probably mostly available is Tyrell Richards. And I don't think you would have to give up much more than, say, a third round pick at this.
I would think so, maybe lower even.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this. Malden went for a fourth round. Even VA wasn't a first round, was he?
It was. Yeah, no, it was technically a first round pick, but because of the way the draft went, it fell into the second round.
Yeah,
so,
second round.
Right. So that, and then they've got all the weirdness going. But yes.
Right. I remember that whole thing about, the BCO overpaying stuff. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And I got to tell you.
No one's getting the Riders a kicker?
Nah. Nothing to worry about.
Fine. This is.
Yeah. I will say in Lowther's defense, and I don't know if he's going through stuff or if he's not or anything, but the one excuse he did have that some of the others didn't this weekend was he had a brand new holder because they put the new punter in. And so it takes a little bit of time to get that together.
This has been all season long. You can't.
I know it's been all season up and down, but he has come back. He hadn't missed him other than a convert in about the last 3 games. Mind you, they haven't been working him a lot either. But yeah, I don't know. No, I didn't see it. Didn't go that way with it. I looked for something that was a little more blockbuster, and I figured a star Canadian for star Canadian would make some headlines.
I thought we were doing serious, realistic ones, not.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was looking for who could you trade Nathan Rourke for, and what would you who and I was like, Ottawa would give the whole team,
I wonder what Ottawa would give to have Trey Ford on their team, so Eugene and Trey could be back together.
Not much. I think
Not
Trey.
much.
I think the Bloom's off that rose a lot.
Yeah. He'd probably be so happy. Although I was thinking this weekend, Trey's living his best life in Edmonton. He never gets hit. He's just going to games. He's getting paid a lot, running his Airbnb, hanging out with his brother, posting Instagram stories of his daughter every day. Just having a great time in Edmonton.
I think Trey needs to more worry about how much he's going to get paid next year, let alone where he's going to play next year.
Yeah.
Because he's not making the money next year that he's making this year.
Yeah. No, that is definitely true. Hopefully he's salted some away. And either he will fade out, or if he's going to get anywhere, I see him as sort of in the stage where VA was when he first got to the league. Yep. There was lots of hype on him, but bounced around 3 or 4 teams until he found someone that could work with him. Anyway, that's that, and a little bit of confusion, but what the heck? That makes more fun in our little games. And we do have one last game to play, but this one isn't ours before we get to the games. This is the CFL's game because they have now opened up the CFL All-Stars where we get to vote. And so anyone that doesn't know that you vote for one person in each of the positions that are available, which is kicker, punter, and special teams overall, linebacker, D-line, and DB, quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and O-line. So what I figure we should do here is try not to take too long with this, but if we go through it and if we each take our pick for that position and make a little bit of a case for it, and then we'll decide out of the 3 who we're going to take. So the kicker position, it looks like everybody's available. I'm going to start by suggesting, I think probably Sean White. I know he's getting older and he doesn't have quite the legs some of these other kickers do, but he is just so dang consistent all the way through, and that would be my choice. How about for the two of you?
I also picked White. I just thought I joked this weekend that all the kickers are a little rattled from the rule changes because they all had a little. But White's Mr. Consistent, and if it was down to the wire, that's who I'd want kicking for me.
I actually had Legio as the guy for me, which is dramatically different than I would have picked 3 years ago when he was in Winnipeg. That's for sure. But he has had the resurrection, and I think he's been very consistent pretty much all year as well. They say he doesn't have the leg, but he was kicking 55-yarders on the weekend. So I will, I will take I think Legio's my guy.
Okay, well, he would have probably been my second choice. I was going back and forth, but are you sticking to your guns on White, MJ? Because then we outvote GT. Okay, so we know what that one is. So the punters. Who wants to go first on this one?
I said Bassett from Calgary.
I never even really thought about punters because I didn't think there would be two different. I thought it would just be one or the other. So you go ahead, old man, and let me think a bit.
Okay, so let me see, because there are some here that are like, we couldn't pick the new Saskatchewan guy because he's not on here. So let me just take a look here and see, make sure everybody that I want is on here. Yeah, they are. So I would suggest this year I'd probably go with Carl Meyer of the Lions.
That's who I was going with too. Yeah, okay. I would go with Carl Meyer.
Picked and in. Okay. Special teamer of the year. I should have looked up who has tackles. I haven't been really playing that much. I guess for me, it's probably going to come down to a returner.
Yeah. Greg Vavel. Who else could it
Vavel.
be?
Yeah.
It's like little razzle dazzle.
Let's make sure Vavel's actually up on here.
He is. I picked him. I voted on this today on the website.
Did you? You've gone ahead and checked all this. Okay. Hold on. I know how there's a better way to do this here. Let me get this thing up here. I want Winnipeg for this now. And while I'm doing this, start thinking linebacker. And they don't differentiate between weak or strong side, just linebacker in general.
So we're flipping it back up to offense? Okay.
Well, I can say that when I looked through the ones that have been out there this year and what they've accomplished, there's a lot of big names and there's some legacy stuff there with it. You could pick several of them. Tougher to pick Edmonton because they've had some come out, and then with Calgary, unless you're going to go for one of the outside linebackers, same sort of thing.
Did you pick your returner?
Yes, the returner was Vavel. Okay, so we're now talking this, but I think when it comes right down to it, if there's so many things when you start putting, I'm quibbling, start putting the strong side and the weak side in there and everything, but I think in the end this year, this really I think of this as linebacker, as middle linebacker, and it comes down to Sankey or McManus. And I think Sankey has had a slightly better season, so that would be where I would go.
I picked Revenberg because my note says Bo is still not injured.
That's O-line. We're on linebacker.
That's O-line. We're linebackers. And I thought for a second, Revenberg's a linebacker? Wait a second.
Man, it has been a week of changes.
Oh, linebacker. Okay. Whoa. Oh, no. Where's my notes? Okay. Go first.
So I didn't have this on my list at all when I went up by position groups. It's not one of the ones that I picked. But off the top of my head, I'm going to go off the board and be a little bit of a homer. But I think Roberts would be my pick in Calgary. I think he's had a tremendous year. I think he's, again, a guy that's really stepped up and has proven himself and sort of come out of nowhere and has, even with the weakness in their other positions in the linebacking core, after Markel Lee got injured, I think that he's really stepped up and made that linebacking core still significant. So that's who I'm going to take.
So it's on you, MJ. Do you agree with one of us or have a third option and we'll have to vote?
I picked Verasek.
Never thought about that as a rookie.
I have a note saying rookie magic.
Yeah. And he has played really well.
Yes.
Sorry, GT, I'm jumping over with MJ. We're going to go Verasek. Okay.
I don't think he's played well enough to be the best linebacker, to be the all-star linebacker in the league. Yeah. I think he's got a shot at rookie, but I don't think he should be the all-star linebacker in the league. So, okay, but that's who we're going with.
That's who we're going with. If I can find Hamilton Tiger Cats on my other screen here. Okay. Defensive lineman.
I said Betts.
The way he's come on lately, maybe, yeah. I don't think that there's a real question in this year. There's a lot of good linemen, but I think Hutchings is the way he's played is.
Hutchins is the guy that I had on mine list too. The way he started out the year, the way he just controlled that line, and the drop off in the one game he wasn't there, just shows that. I think he's the player.
Okay.
And Betts has been great in the last 3 games, but I don't think he had a great start to the season. So
No.
I wouldn't give him again. That's the reason I didn't go for him.
How about you, MJ? Oh, you said already. You said Betts. Yeah, sorry. My brain ain't working the way that it should. So now we're on to the defensive backs.
DB. Okay. I had Casatonis. Yeah, for the same reason that I had Hutchins. He's been such a key player, and you've seen the drop off when he's not there on the entire defense. So I have Casatonis.
Yeah, same reason.
Okay, Casatonis it is. I would, just for the record, I would have been maybe a homer with this other fellow in my brain, because I would still have gone with Milligan. He's, despite giving up a touchdown this weekend, he's had another hell of a season. Anyway,
I thought he was injured for a little bit too. Was he not early in the middle of the season? Didn't he miss a couple of games?
I don't think so. I think he's been good. Yeah, the other one you could talk about on the Saskatchewan would be Campbell, who has missed a couple of games, but I think he's leading the league in interceptions right now.
Yeah, and I tried to take games played and injuries into the account on all of my picks. So
sounds good.
I looked at Milligan, but I thought he'd been injured. I guess I'm mistaken. So, but I still think Casatonis has just been more important to his team this year. So I would pick Casatonis.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I have to give you that. And like I said, I could be wrong too. I think Milligan missed like half of a game, was injured late in the second half, or late in the second quarter, or early in the third, and was out for that, but came back the following week. I think we'd have to check. Anyway, offensive lineman.
Okay, this is why I say Revenberg. Bo has not been injured yet.
Yeah. This is a tough one to pick.
All right. My argument is this. I'm going with Fortin in Calgary. As a rookie, he started every single game at center. He's not been injured. Their sack rate has been really low. They stay along the offensive line. The center is the captain. He has to call all the plays. He has to keep on track of all the defenses. He has to do all that stuff. As a rookie, that's an incredible position to be in. So that's the reason I'm going with him. And in fact, he's going to be my Rookie of the Year candidate for Calgary when it comes to All-Stars too.
Okay. Well, one of us is going to have to give on this one, because again, this maybe sounds like a homer pick, but I've been watching the games and I've seen what Hardrick's been doing all year, and what a difference it's made having him in there as opposed to last year when he was out. And that's basically what my argument is that when he's in there, the running game works. He's good against the pass, but he just brings so much intangibles in leadership and the enthusiasm he brings and everything like that. So we'll throw it up there, and then we may have to first vote. But is anybody willing to change over any of those right off the start?
I don't super care, so I'm happy to jump over to GT's pick.
Okay, so then we go to 410.
And I wouldn't jump over to yours, old man, only because I don't like Hardrick the way he's played. I thought he's been cheap and chippy all year.
Okay, let's see. Let me find Calgary here. Okay, 410. That brings us to running back. There's a lot of good running backs this year, but I think there's still an obvious choice if you ask me. I don't think anyone touches what Brady does out there. He's just so bloody consistent. He's always moving forward. He's never stopped, or I can probably count on fingers of one hand, the number of times I've seen him stop behind the line. And even if he's hit at the 1 or 2, he gets 4. So I don't think there's anybody that's matching up to him.
I had James Butler. And to be honest with you, I just thought he's had a tremendous year. He's had a bounce back year after a couple of bad years in Hamilton. And he's a receiver as well as a blocker, as well as a runner. And he's just an overall threat. So I had James Butler as my pick.
I had Mills / Brady because I couldn't pick. So
then Brady it is. And
Brady it is.
And I don't have a big issue with going with Brady. So
Yeah. On all of these, I struggle with. I can make cases for a few players, as you should be able to in professional football. And I know Brady's not leading the league anymore, but as you said, with Butler, and some others, he picks up a lot of stuff out of the backfield. He's been half of Winnipeg's offense in some games this year. He's got the biggest impact. All right, wide receivers.
How many do we pick? I wasn't sure about this, but just one?
One. We get one of each position.
Okay. Kenny Lawler. Even when he has a bad game like he did on the weekend, he still has a bad game because they're triple covering him. Yes. And when they're not triple covering him, he's having a great game. And early on, before they figured out you had to triple cover him, he was running amok. So I still think he's the best receiver in the league.
And it may be the coverages that are getting on him, but he has. I feel like in the last while he's dropped off in some. I mean, he makes these catches that are supposed to be uncatchable and they're spectacular, but he's stopped making some of those now, which makes me kind of wonder a bit. And I think to me the best receiver this year is someone who's kind of snuck along and he gets mentioned with the top, but nobody says, "Oh, look, this is the leading wide receiver in the league in Keon Hatcher." And he's been reliable and. Maybe not the touchdowns that Lawler's got, but he's been reliable and open far more than, as I say, he's 7-11. He's open all night.
I had Herslow.
That's another good one. But again, 4 or 5 games makes it harder for me to.
Or I was going to say Hardy as well, because he's that lone bright star on the Red Blacks this year.
Yeah. And, I've been championing Hardy all year, so I'm with you. I'll just go back. And Herslow, I'm with Oldman. Unfortunately, he's not, that's where the lack of, he just wasn't playing in the first half of the season. So I don't think he can be
amnesia. I have amnesia from the first half of the season. I feel like it was forever ago. What have you done lately?
Gosh.
Yeah. And I think Keon Hatcher's had a tremendous year as well. Again, I just think he doesn't affect the game the way that Lawler affects the other team's defense overall and how they have to do. So how they talked about it on the weekend with Keandre Smith and just said that he's getting all of those passes because Lawler's getting sucking up all the deep guys. And that's the reason he's had all those passes in the middle that he's turned into touchdowns and so on. So that would be the reason I go for Lawler still over a guy like Hatcher.
Yeah. Is your value in the threat of you or in the actuality of you, or a little bit of both?
Well, I'll give Kenny the fact that he does have both, but given that you've been championing Hardy and you said maybe Hardy and I could live with Hardy, how about if we go with him?
So we're going to go with Hardy? Wow. Okay.
Sometimes it's compromise.
Yeah. Someone in Ottawa's happy.
Yeah.
One person.
Yeah.
Hey, well, at this point, let's see, we have 2 Tiger Cats, 2 Lions, 2 Bombers, 2 Stampeders, and a Red Black. So we don't have the Alouettes, the Argos, Elks, or Riders represented. But that's okay, too, because we're a big dog now, the quarterback. So this is a really tough one to me.
Yeah, it was, it's only tough for me because I hate to make the pick. Not because he probably deserves it, but just because I hate to make the pick. And that's, of course, I've got to go for Trevor Harris. He's the only quarterback that's been consistent all year and missed one game and has not had, other than maybe on the weekend where I don't know what he was doing, not had the big swings. Like Bo has had a better year, but had the big swings up and down. And I haven't seen that from Harris. So, as I say, I'm not a fan. I'm not a believer. But right now, if I would have to give him the nod.
Yeah. How about you, MJ?
Well, if I have amnesia, I'm going to pick Rourke. I think he's coming along really nice. If I'm going to go overall, I don't think Bo's playing well lately, but I think overall he's probably played one of the best yeah, he's playing really well. So that's who I'd pick for overall. But I think Nathan's coming in hot for the last little bit here.
Yeah, and see, what keeps me away from Nathan is that he's looked great the last 3 games, but it's took a while. And so if you're looking at consistent across the season, and then if you go from that knocks a lot of other quarterbacks out of contention just because of all the injuries that we've got this year.
Well, yeah.
So, even, and VA would be in there, but he's had a few tough games of this lately. So it really, to me, it comes down to Bo and Harris, and they both had some off outings, but I think overall Harris has been more consistent and more steady. So, okay, Harris is that. So we get a rider in there. What do you know?
Good.
Okay, where's my save button now? Vote now. There we go. And you know what? Apparently we could have done that again because you're allowed to vote 3 times, but we're not going to.
So next week we pick the B team.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the practice squad. All righty.
Okay, so maybe we should do a team. Maybe we should do an injured team.
Yeah.
Injury team.
All the best players that are currently on the various teams' injury list.
Yeah, on the injured list, or have spent a good chunk of time on it. Have been 6 games or something.
Yeah. You have to be on the 6-game list, not just on the 1 game. You have to be on every team's 6-game list currently. I think that would be a fun.
Yeah, maybe we
Next
do that.
Week.
Let's think about it. Yes. All righty. So that takes us, though, into the actual games and what happened this weekend. And I got to say, I think I posted on Blue Sky. To me, the weekend was a bit of a dud up until about 4 minutes into the second half of the very last game between the Riders and the Elks. And then it got exciting. But the other 3 games, I honestly felt like halfway through the second quarter, I knew who was going to win them. And BC and Toronto ended up being a little bit close, but it just never felt like it was going to go anywhere. So let's start with the first one, which was Calgary went into Montreal and got beat. Montreal 38, Calgary 20. You want to tell us about this, GT?
Well, 2 things. The offense couldn't stay on the field and the defense couldn't get off the field. And that pretty much sums up the Calgary game. On the Montreal side, Davis Alexander came back and was hot as a pistol and looked like the guy again that we all said he was going to be early in the year. And the reason that Montreal all of a sudden is now back in contention, not only for first place, but for the Grey Cup, like we talked about early in the year. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they're both in first place in the East and in the Grey Cup, like we talked about earlier in the year. I would also like to talk about one thing, and it may sound like homerism on this part, but I thought the officiating over the weekend in all games was not great. And I thought in this game in particular, it was horrible from penalties that got called against Calgary. I thought Calgary got robbed at least 3 times on penalties that were ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. There was one, let me see, bad call on the roughing the passer to find Bailey Scott went in, perfectly timed that on a blitz that was coming from out of the nowhere and just perfectly timed it, went low to avoid a helmet to helmet, and then Alexander ducks and ends up getting a slight knock on the head because there's no way that Scott could stop. And that becomes a roughing the passer that becomes a first down instead of a huge sack. And that was just atrocious. Even at the halftime, the panel said it was a bad call and they need to fix that type of thing. So that one just ticked me off.
Is that when Dave got caught on the hot mic?
I missed that part.
Yeah, I think that was when they were just letting Dave just rant away on the hot mic.
Yeah, well, he had a right to be angry. That's when, to me, that this year they said the rule is it's not roughing the passer if there's mitigating circumstances, and I got to agree with you, GT. Alexander bent basically in half, bent double. His helmet was at his knee level.
Yeah.
You couldn't have hit him without either hitting his helmet or below the knees. So
and then VA got his helmet ripped off, and that wasn't a penalty.
That's the second. So don't talk about it's not just a penalty. Plus, they called the play dead, so he couldn't even get the first down. Then they didn't give him the yardage, which would have been the first down. And then they didn't call a penalty on it when he got his helmet ripped off. So how can it not? when he was still behind the line of scrimmage. On top of that, not when he was already past the line of scrimmage and was a runner. He was still a quarterback behind the line of scrimmage. That was equally ridiculous.
See, yeah.
So this makes
Well-
me think that VA's not top tier quarterback in the replay center's mind
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is that, but I'll let you rant again, GT. But I'm going to disagree on this one, because what I saw on that play is that it wasn't I didn't see anything that was a direct hit to the head. If you're going to call the Divine Scott penalty, then the one to VA should have been a penalty if it's anywhere near to something like that. But I think under the way the rule's written, that got called right in that it wasn't an actual hit to the head. The helmet was kind of pulled up and lifted off as the play was going along. And at that point, you got to whistle it dead for player safety.
How did it get lifted off of his head?
That's a hit to the head. Exactly. How did it get lifted off? You can
How
only
does
get
your
lifted off
helmet
if
just
you hit
come
his head.
off?
Yeah,
That
but
was
that's
the
what I'm
point.
saying, though.
Hand or helmet or body part had to have pumped that off of his head. It
Yeah,
just didn't fly off.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's what I'm saying, though, that, yeah, you could call for it, but I don't have a problem with that not being called, because there are, frankly, if you watch the game closely, there are a lot of times when the quarterback's head gets brushed or nudged, and unless it's challenged, doesn't get called. So it's just, I think that personally, I think they've gone too much the other way, that stuff where it's any touch of the helmet is off of that. And if you're that worried about it, like I said before, do guardian caps, but just
This
a
is
difference
fair.
of how we see it.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that's a whole different thing. I don't disagree with you that they are going a little bit too much on it. But the reality is, given the way the plays are called now, when someone's helmet gets taken off, 2 weeks ago, the entire province of Saskatchewan was about to burn down the rest of the country because of AJ Ouellette getting his helmet ripped off. It's the same thing. There was no penalty then. There should have been a penalty there. That was a complete face mask, but we didn't get to see how that happened on the weekend. But it was certainly, it was behind the line of scrimmage, and as MJ said, your helmet doesn't come off by itself. So somebody took it off. And so therefore, and I can understand why they stopped the play. I'm just saying that should have been a penalty. There should have been a penalty called on that. And then later on, the third instance was Mac was clearly out of bounds on that long catch. His foot was clearly on the line, and the official on the broadcast, you could hear the sideline officials as they came close. The one official said, "I got nothing. I couldn't see it," in other words. I got nothing. So that immediately says to me that they didn't see the play, which immediately says it should be reviewed. If the officials can't make a call, then they should ask for a review. So it should have been called, because on the replay, he was clearly out of bounds. And again, I'm sorry, it sounds like but those were just 3 really bad calls against the same team. And it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have happened. Did it impact the game score? Probably not, because Calgary wasn't playing well. But nonetheless, it certainly didn't help that they had 3 really, really bad calls go against.
Okay.
Also, the stadium miking in this stadium is wild. You cannot mic out, but you can, this is the stadium where I hear sideline officials a lot, where Dave Dickinson was throwing F-bombs about the league and about Toronto Replay Center and F this and F that, and TSN just left that camera on him, letting him rant up and down the sidelines, and then you can hear the referees. And so I'm like, what goes on in Percival Stadium? Like, what happens in the stadium? It's some sort of weird sound vortex.
People there really like the drama.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. But yeah, that was pretty bad. My hot take is this: if we're going to talk quarterback safety and all these nonsense calls and is it a hit or not, why don't we just do what flag football does? And you have one rusher that starts from 10 yards back, and they're the only ones that can hit the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage. Once the quarterback's past the line of scrimmage, he's fair game, but behind the line, there's only one person who can hit him, and then you have eyes on one person. But they have like this same thing as flag. They have, oh, well, we're changing rules anyway, old man.
Yeah, that's true.
So just have like one player who's got a free run at the quarterback, basically. They got time to,
Unblocked,
they start 10
okay.
yards back. Unblocked, 10 yards back, so you have some time. Quarterback can still scramble. Once they're past the line, they're free fight. But then maybe we will cut down on things like this, and then VA's helmet wouldn't get ripped off behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we have the rule change for next week.
There we go. Yeah. We were going to talk about ones. I'm still working on that. We're saving
My sister
that.
and I have talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
This is our rule change. We're workshopping.
Well, I got to say, you've covered off an awful lot of the stuff that I took note of. There were a couple of things that I did just want to mention, and I didn't get a time in the game when this happened, unfortunately, because I'd like to refer people back to it. But I thought that there was just timing of everything. There was an exceptional play by Adi Berglund, who I can never pronounce his name properly anyway. They sent him on a bit of a stunt where he ended up coming inside a bit on a play where the Stamps were decided they were going to run like 3 fakes on it. They faked the handoff and the reverse and something else. And then by the time VA turned around, Berglund was right in his face. And that was just a very well-run play, good timing and everything. I enjoyed since we don't get to see Trey anymore, I enjoyed the bit of VA magic in the end zone where the snap went. I think it was the snap went wild. He ended up having to go into the end zone and pick it up and scramble around through the end zones and ended up completing, I think, about 30
play.
or 35 yards downfield to
That was
Rhymes.
unbelievable.
And he ran for 21 yards for a touchdown, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
where it looked like everybody's waiting for him to slide. It looked like every single defender thought he was going to go down, and he just juked him and kept going.
Yep.
So that was
Yeah. And the other only couple of things, Maltos, strangely enough, who's been very good, was 3 for 5. So not a good weekend for kickers. And hey, Jason Moss made a great challenge too. He actually trusted his eyes and went for something that was there rather than something he wished was there. So congratulations, Coach. Anything else?
And to counterpoint my complete homerism, I will say that I did think Philpott was offside on his touchdown. I thought he was offside fairly large, and they let him get away with it. But then right on the next Montreal touchdown, I thought that Rambo was offside. So I thought it just balanced each other on both of their touchdowns. I thought they were both offside by a couple of yards, but whatever. It's hard to tell from television sometimes.
Yeah, it is. I remember they used to joke about it, and I sometimes get a chance to see some of the old games. And Ray Elgard, they talked about that. 2 yards offside every play. Yeah. You'd swear it was, but never got called. I don't know how. It's just amazing. Anyway, I'm going to jump on to...
No, I just want to talk about Davis Alexander. I just want to talk about his triumphant return. A lot of his teammates came in. They were wearing their white tank tops. They all wore their white tank tops together. That. And this guy, there was no rust on him, huh? In it to win it. And I just laughed because he got that roughing call. And I'm like, what did he say? What was happening?
I wish they'd shown that.
Things to not hot mic on this in this stadium. And Berglund gave that very impassioned speech after I don't think that reporter knew what hit her. But then he said sorry at the end. So it was very Canadian of him.
I didn't catch the speeches. I'll have to go back and see that one.
It's a good one.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Sorry. What was I going to... You mentioned Alexander Rust. Strangely enough, my note said Alexander started a little rusty, but shook it off quickly. I felt like the first couple of drives, you could tell he wasn't quite what he was, but had been before, but he came back, I thought anyway. Yeah, that's pretty much all there, though, so putting them to bed. All right. Game 2, Toronto 22 at BC 37. Either you guys want to take the lead telling us about this, or?
Well, I thought you summed it up earlier when you said overall the weekend was just kind of like, eh. And I thought this game was too. It was back and forth, but BC kind of had it in control. Somehow it felt like they did, at least for the entire game. And the only thing that I found interesting was all the shenanigans as both teams tried to go into for touchdowns, and there was penalty after penalty back and forth. And it was like, what are you guys doing? It took like 7 plays to get a touchdown from the 1 yard line because they kept going back and forth and back and forth. So that was the most interesting part of the game, pretty much. Other than the Sluka, I thought the Sluka interception and then the pitch back to McFadden, I thought that was a great play on his behalf, knowing that there was somebody there. If they had turned it into a 15 or 20 yarder instead of getting tackled right away, it would have been an outstanding play. So, yeah.
What you got, MJ?
Well, I was away for this game. I got home in the fourth quarter, but my husband was sending me a text that it was a kicker shoot 'em out.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm trying to stay awake, and it's a kicker shoot 'em out with 1.5 million penalty yards. I came back in the fourth, and I saw it was like a NBA game where there was just flags in the last, just flags, constant flags near the end. Mac Mahone only had 14 yards of rushing. I thought this was going to be such a shoot 'em out game. I was like, Arbuckle and Rourke, I thought for sure this would be such a high flyer, and it was not. I just have the note, Boss, number 51 from the Argos. I am surprised they even let him get onto the team bus. I thought for sure Dinwiddie was going to just tell
Call
him
another pretender and
yeah, I thought for sure. I felt bad. It looked like he was getting outworked, and then he started making sloppy mistakes. Like he was getting outworked all night.
Well, he was playing out of position. He was playing as a
Yeah.
tackle, and he's normally a guard. And so I think that makes a difference, a huge difference, as we saw in Calgary the week before that when they had to do the same thing. When you're going up against a guy like Betts, and when you're playing out of position, that's really tough as a second-year player. I actually had him on my list of players I'd like to trade for. So he was,
Maybe
he's
Ryan will give him a free pass for that.
yeah.
maybe.
Nathan
forget he
Rourke
was also-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't forget he was also starting the game at 10 o'clock his time. So getting a little tired and worn down at the end is maybe excusable.
Walked into that game wearing his radically Canadian shirt.
Mm-hmm.
He met with the commissioner. We didn't talk about this in the news, but he met with the commissioner, and basically Rourke was just like, my opinion has not changed.
Yes.
And rolled in with
And
his
good for
radically
him.
Canadian shirt. And he was on a mission. There was a play where he was caught in the backfield, and he plowed through like a Brady to get his first down, and he was not going away without a W. I think he had a lot. Talk about someone who had pressure. He had a lot of pressure to win and perform well after what happened this week, and he did it.
Oh yeah, that was impressive. We said at the start of the year that BC and Calgary, to do well for both of them, the quarterbacks would pretty much have to take the team on their back and carry them. And now Calgary, it was a little easier for VA because their defense improved in ways that I certainly wasn't expecting. But it is still true that you look at them when either of those quarterbacks is not having a great game, they're good to mediocre teams. When those quarterbacks are on, either of those teams are unbeatable.
Yeah, that play at the end of the game where Rourke did that play that you mentioned, MJ, he literally spun away when he was wrapped up by McManus, of all people. That was unbelievable. I've never seen McManus get ragdolled like that. That was incredible. Just incredible. So, yeah, it was something else.
And what you said about penalties, I realized I hadn't looked at what they were, but I had the same impression. So, yeah, I just looked at it. Toronto, 11 for 134 yards. BC, 10 for 119 yards. So, yeah, neither of them was helping themselves at all with what they were doing. The other thing that I thought was nice was BC when they backed up, I think, about on their 8 and got that, I think it was almost a 50-yard pass downfield to Hatcher. And quite nice, and I made the note of the fact that he might have scored if it wasn't for a nice tackle by Berryhill, who was the other receiver downfield with him. I don't know if you remember that one, but kind of a collide went there. But yeah, I thought the score didn't reflect the game. I thought BC pretty much dominated it. And what you were saying about sacks, MJ, that's 3 of them. So 9 in the last 3 games after 4 all season up till then.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's just turned on a motor, or if they've changed up their blocking or their attack schemes or what. But
well, 2 against 2 guards playing tackle in the last 2 games.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
And two of them, and both of them being rookies or second-year players.
That may explain it. Yeah.
So that helps. It doesn't explain all of it, but it certainly helps.
Yeah. And I think.
And I'm not taking anything away from Betts, because I think he's a tremendous player. But I do think when you look at who he was playing against, again, if it was playing against Hardrick, I don't think he would have that kind of success. If he was playing against the Montreal line, I don't know necessarily he would have that kind of success. So
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and Calgary's got both their starting tackles back in for this weekend coming up, don't they? So we'll see how he does there. But that
okay.
I didn't have a whole lot more than that on that game. I don't know if either of you do.
Well, I have something that just popped into this tiny little brain of mine concerning BC. And because we talked about it earlier in the pod, but when do the BC road games, because I know they're in Kelowna and Langford, and I know you talked about the two teams, but when are they? When are the dates? Because here's the interesting thing I just thought of. Is one of them, because of the timing of the World Cup, is one of them technically going to be BC's first home game?
That's a good question. I just
It
pulled open
doesn't.
touchdown Kelowna here because I heard there was also a game in Langford though.
Yes,
That's
there
going
is.
to be
There's
three of them.
preseason,
Okay.
right? Oh no, one of them's in Langford, two are in Kelowna because they have to do
Okay.
3 games.
Right.
Okay, so let's see.
Langford and Kelowna, 2 games.
Yeah. When is World Cup?
You know, I don't think that actually we won't know because the schedule isn't out yet.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
but they're out of the stadium. They're basically out of the stadium for all of June and all of July. That's pretty
Yeah.
much how it works. Doesn't matter what the schedule is for the soccer games. They're out of, from what I understand here in Toronto, they're out of the stadium for the entire months of June and July. So
Okay.
I'm just curious. And the reason I'm curious is because if that's technically the first home game for the Lions,
Yes,
does
it will be.
does Amar do the big concert in Langford
Kelowna?
or Kelowna, or does he wait until he gets the first game back in BC? Because
I think he'll wait. If I were him, I would wait.
I would think he would.
World Cup's from June 11th to July 19th.
That's what I was just looking up here. So yeah. And no, they haven't got the dates up here yet, but that's a good point. That would be nice. I could take a nice.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that'd be okay with me, but they were not gonna if they're gonna have somebody like as big as Snoop Dogg again next year, they're gonna need a 50,000 person stadium.
Yeah, 20,000 won't do it.
But come on, you know what? Eminem in Kelowna is going to be tremendous.
You think you could entice him to come to Kelowna?
Absolutely, Amar can
Kendrick Lamar in Kelowna.
No,
Money talks.
It's going to be.
You think so?
Absolutely. It follows the pattern perfectly.
Okay. We heard it here first.
All right. Scoop. GT's scoop.
Okay. And with that speculation, I think we'll move on.
We're off.
Game 3.
Hey, we don't really need to talk about this one anyways.
We don't need to talk about it.
Can you get yourself through a short description of Hamilton 3 Winnipeg 40?
You know, let me tell you guys, I have never been so happy to take my kid and his friends swimming halfway through a game in my entire life. I was like, I'll just keep track on the TSN app at the pool. So I was really excited because Dusty and Lapo are my favorite combo for commentators. And I was like, oh, it's going to be such a great team. Like Dusty and Lapo, my faves. And, you know, Ben Major's there speaking Ojibwe. And I'm like, this is so great. So then the TSN turning point, friends, here it comes. Get ready. Vavel returns opening kickoff for touchdown.
Game over.
Game over. That was the TSN turning point. The Ticats are even lucky to have 3 points because that kick by Mark Leggio was 55 yards and it hit the upright and went through. Hit the crossbar.
Inch shorter, and it would have bounced back out in front.
Oh, I give my husband a lot of grief for the times that the Lions have been like they put a 0 on the scoreboard in the last few years, and I laugh at him, and then my team just about did it. Against the Bombers. Claris looked good. Brady looked good. I think Lawler, they looked like they were really, like he went 2 for 9. I think they were really trying to force the ball to him. And I'm not quite sure why, because they don't usually do that. But they were really, really pressing hard for him. I don't know if it's because they were playing his old team. And, you know, there was that drama saying that they talked to, was it Mitchell? I think they talked to Mitchell before they talked to me. And so they were trying to make him have like this, like, great triumphant return, but it honestly just made him look worse. Don't scheme for people's personal vendettas. Please don't. Please scheme for winning a game. That's like, this is what I tell my kid. I tell my kid this all the time in sports. You don't get even on the field, you get even on the scoreboard. There's no reason to force the pass to him. So good job, Bombers defense. Good job, Bombers offense. Sad, sad days. Beat on all three phases of the game.
The Bombers were on. That was the best game Zach's had since the Western Final last year when he looked in that kind of shape too. And the Bombers looked like the Bombers from 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't know where that came from. I had exactly the same thing for you. My first note was 12 seconds in and the game is over. That's how long it took for that return. And basically that the same thing that I couldn't understand why they were forcing the deep balls to Lawler into what he was well covered on all of them.
Yeah.
And it would have taken a spectacular catch. So burn the tape game, I guess.
Yeah, I had the same thing pretty much. I thought again it was over when Bavel returned that kickoff, and immediately I just thought, oh, Winnipeg's finally replaced Janarian Grant. You know, it took them a while, but they found the guy, so they've got their new Janarian Grant. Except he can catch the ball, catch as a receiver as well. I thought Lawler dropped 3 passes that he should have caught, but he also had 3 taken away from him at the last second by really good defensive plays. And then, they forced a couple of more at him. So but it wasn't his best game. And it felt like he had hometown yips, as I call it. It was like, yeah, he wanted to play in front of the crowd in Winnipeg, and it just didn't happen. So, and the only other thing I said about the game was, okay, the pictures for the quarterback, Lapo, we get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, enough. We get it. This is like 3 games in a row now where he's been talking about the quarterback sees the pictures, and I'm like, okay, we get it. So time to come up with something new.
Yeah. Every one of those guys ends up having 1 or 2 things that they go to and it's the same as any other job. If the boss comes around the corner, you suddenly have something you can do to look busy. If they run out of anything else, we can talk that.
Yeah.
Anything else, or do we just put this one out of our memories?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then the last game was Saskatchewan going into Edmonton, and I thought Edmonton was doing better. I still thought Saskatchewan would win this one, probably better than a field goal anyway. I thought that in some ways they played well. You mentioned Baldonado. He had a hell of a game in starting with Ray out. I don't know if either of you have ever seen it before. The first Saskatchewan drive, we got to see a quarterback throw 2 interceptions on the same drive.
That was bizarre.
Yeah, which for anyone who missed it, he tossed one. I can't remember the player that got it, but tossed one downfield, and Joe came back and stripped it, so they got the ball back, and the drive continued, and 2 plays later, he threw almost into that same spot. And I really think that's where I see that as a bit of an artifact of stuff. If you look at the last 2 or 3 games, defenses have started to learn that Saskatchewan's game plan early is run the ball. You can stack up on that, hold them to 2 or 3 yards, and then I run a slant or a curl to get their yardage, and they keep going like that. So this last couple of games, not this one, but the last couple of games before this, the DBs were sitting up on that tight, and they picked off Harris early, and they came close to others. And I think what happened was Saskatchewan said, okay, that's how we're being played. So they changed, and they came up and they didn't start running the ball, and they tried to go to the intermediate throws right away. And the Edmonton linebackers were not playing tight. They had a good drop, and Harris twice didn't have a great game and threw it straight into coverage twice for that. We'll see how they come out later, but I think they have to figure out something a little more solid on what they want to do early. And then let me say this before anyone else goes on, because there's a lot to talk about. But in the end, the Elks started slow, and the Riders kept shooting themselves in the foot. So the first half wasn't great. Then we got into the second half, and it started picking up, and Edmonton got themselves a good lead. And then with 3 minutes to go, they had a 12-point lead, which the Riders scored a touchdown, took it down to a 5-point lead. The Elk get a field goal on top of that. Now it's 8 points. Riders come back. A deep pass to the 1-yard line with 1 second on the clock. They managed to get the touchdown in, have to go for the 2 points to win, and It was a side route that Joe had. It was fairly obvious. He had to read the receiver, and so did the quarterback, whether they were going inside or outside. He read inside, and Harris read outside, and it looked like he just threw the ball away on the play. And a lot of people that don't understand football were just disgusted with that, but I understand how it happened completely. He's thrown to a spot, and
yeah, it was hard to tell who made the mistake, whether it was the receiver, whether it was Harris. One of them certainly wasn't where he was supposed to be. Either the ball or the receiver wasn't where he was supposed to be.
If only those goalposts weren't in the way.
Yeah,
we would be able to tell.
Yeah. Did you notice that every game over the weekend they talked about the goalpost being in the way?
Yes.
For the first time this year, it's never been a topic all year, and all of a sudden this weekend, every single game they talked about the goalpost being in the way. Unbelievable.
As an aside, I can't remember what game it was, but Kate was joking about how they're going to 4 analysts instead of 3, and they all were joking about it. And I was like, yeah, you guys, you know what? This is like not actually very funny, and a lot of people are really hurt and upset, and it's not. Please don't joke about this yet. It's not.
That was not in great taste. The other thing I noticed is, maybe it's just me and maybe it's the bias, but I felt like there was less of the sort of ubiquitous crowd shots between plays and stuff. And I wondered how much that had to do with the fact that there's this group of concerned fans that were advocating what they called a blackout, which was, don't boycott the team, but go to the game wearing either a black shirt or tape over your CFL logos on the shirts. And something like that would have been, I think, fairly good to see, but there weren't a lot of crowd shots.
Two thoughts on that. That's in poor taste to do on Truth and Reconciliation weekend, so
I guess maybe,
save it. Second, I'm wondering, because I forgot to talk about this in the Montreal game, but there's a lot of reports about people's signs being confiscated at the gates in BC and in Montreal.
I had heard that was the other part it was going to be, that they weren't allowing negative signs in, which again, doesn't make me feel great about how they're doing this. But
anyway, that's just.
But what about the game itself? Anything else to say?
My power was out, so I didn't actually get to watch this till about the end of the third, fourth. So I just came. It sounds like I didn't miss a whole lot. I just have a note saying, like, well, Hilaire had a nice game for the Elks. I saw that. And the Elks almost blew it again at the end of a game.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like,
yeah.
They're so lucky that goalpost was in the way and they got to win.
Yes.
Because I couldn't. They just let the Riders just march down that field. Just ridiculous.
I said at the end of the game, I couldn't even be mad about them losing, because that was about at least 15 minutes of fantastic football. And I called it. My little Fitbit heart rate monitor did go off in that last 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Warning, your heart rate seems unusually high and you appear to be immobile.
They left 6 points on the field because Lawler missed 2 field goals.
Yep, that's true too.
And I think he missed like 1 or 2 converts as well, I think.
No, I don't think he missed converts at all. But
at least 6 points are on the ground. And I was so worried about Edmonton's kicking game at the beginning of the year, and it should have been the Riders I was worried about.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And the other thing is, the Edmonton O-line held up better this time. There was only 3 sacks for the Riders, and that's low for that team.
One of my notes was, word for word, Elks O-line still sucks. I thought they were bad. I thought they were bad. They had 3 sacks, but I thought there was a lot of pressure over the game. So I just thought Saskatchewan did everything to give the game away. I mean, they were bound, as I put it, they were bound and determined not to score. They did. Yeah. Like, they got all the way down to the 15 after those ridiculousness on that first drive. They got all the way down to the 15 and then fumbled, and Edmonton got the ball back. It was just like, then they missed the field goal. Then it was like, come on, they're doing everything they can not to score. And then it was, so I just thought it was bizarro. The other thing I noticed early, and then it was like, Ajo on that play where he came back to knock the ball out of the guy's hand. I said, how is he able to be dressed like that? Where's that jersey's not, the way he's wearing it, that should be a penalty, or he should be fined for jersey infraction, uniform infraction. And then I noticed as they came back in the third quarter, he had it fixed. So somebody must have spoken to him about it, which was interesting.
I didn't see that. What was going on with his jersey?
Well,
He had his
wears
abs stout.
Yeah, he had his jersey just below his pad, so his abs
He's
were
just
showing.
flashing the abs?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
The way Wilder
well,
used to do in Edmonton.
sad I
Yeah.
missed it.
yeah, and you're not allowed to do that anymore. Anyways, I thought the last 3.5 minutes, the 4 minutes were exciting. Once they said there's 2 down, they're down by 12 with 4 minutes left, and you never know. And all of a sudden, that 4 minutes was tremendously exciting. The rest of the game was not great. That's how I viewed it. But there was that weird turnover as well, where the Riders got a turnover, but it was whistled dead, so there was no TD.
No.
But they still got the ball. I couldn't figure out how that worked. And they didn't do a great job on television to me explaining it. They just kind of said, oh, that's the way it works. I was like, okay, so help me understand. How does it work with the balls? If the ball's dead, then it can't be a turnover. And if it's a turnover, then the ball shouldn't have been whistled dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So are they saying they whistled it after the turnover? So they got turned over, then they whistled it, so then he wouldn't have been able to run with it. I think that's how I kind of figured it, but it didn't make sense. I agree.
No. But it was what you said. The ball was out. He scooped it up, and as he started to run towards the goal line, the sideline official blew the play dead, which was a mistake on the official's part. But again,
so why doesn't, and they reviewed it, so why doesn't the review say that's a mistake, touchdown?
Does the whistle override review?
Yes.
The replay center?
Because once the whistle's gone, players are supposed to stop playing. So you can't say, well, it would have been a touchdown because maybe they would have caught him and tackled him. All that they do, it's the same as when VA's helmet came off there, whether you agree with the penalty or not. If there's not a penalty when his helmet came off, they have to whistle the play dead right there. This was in error. They shouldn't have whistled it dead, but when they did, you can't advance any yards from there. So, like you said, it was questionable officiating in all the games.
Yeah, there was strange things. Because here's another one that I questioned. Speaking of helmets, in the Winnipeg game, there was a clear example of a player on Winnipeg's defense, helmet coming off and still following the play and going in to make the tackle in the scrum and no whistle and no penalty.
I saw that too, and no penalty for it. I saw that too, and
after what happened the other night, after what happened on Friday, needless to say, I was not impressed.
Is this because they went to NFL referee school or what? What's going on?
I don't know. I think it's just everybody makes mistakes on them.
It was just a rough weekend for officiating.
Maybe they're upset about rule changes. They're all rattled too.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, if you look around, if you go on some of the different fan sites that are out there, subreddits and stuff like that, just about every team is complaining about the fact that, the refs cost us that game, or the refs made it a lot harder for us. And you can make the cases from a lot of sides. But when I coached, my coach said this to me in the first place, and I coached it on. And that's the fact that if you've let the game be close enough that the refs can decide it with a call one way or the other, you haven't done your job. Just go out and win. Don't leave it in play for them to do. So I'm okay with that. Yeah. Like I said, and I would characterize the game a bit different than you did, GT. I said this last one. To me, it was up to half. It was about the same as the others. It picked up speed in that second half and got to be a better game. But if it had gone on that way and maybe Saskatchewan got one garbage time touchdown and it ended, then I would have said the whole weekend was a dud. It was very much that last 4 or 5 minutes, not just that the Riders came back, but that the Elk fought them off and got the field goal they needed to keep the lead. And again, on the Riders sites, a lot of fans going, we got robbed with these calls, and we didn't lose that, or the Elk didn't win that game, we lost it, we gave it away. The Elk get full measure for that score, for winning that. Yeah, they earned that.
They made the big path when I didn't think they could, and they made it twice, right? And so they did what they needed to do. But I will say the Riders did a really good job of holding Rankin in check for most of the game. And again, it shows that if you can hold him in check, that offense is not the same. And so I called it in the Labor Day games. You just put normally you put a spy on your quarterback. I would just put a spy on him. I would just put a spy on him. I think he'll beat you long before Cody will beat you. So
I have to agree with you. And I have to say, in some ways, I'm kind of proud of how Coach Mace handled the loss, because when I didn't hear all the stuff with him, the bit that I did hear, he stayed his sort of positive stuff. But unlike Dinwiddie, who earlier in the season was losing things and ranting and talking about the fact there's pretenders in the building and calling out the team, there was none of that from Mace. But today, the safety who made all the mistakes isn't with the team anymore. So it's not a matter of saying what you're going to do. It's just going out there and quietly doing it. And that impresses me. Anything else? Are we done? We're done with all the games. Hey. Okay, so let's see. That means we got only 3 games next week to talk about. Friday night. 1 game on Friday night. Saskatchewan at Ottawa. I've got to pick Saskatchewan. I feel bad about it. Ottawa plays them good, but I've got to take them.
Yeah, no, there's no reason that Ottawa should win that game. There just isn't. Saskatchewan's just a better team.
So for these games, I picked tarot cards.
You said that, yes.
Give me a vibe check on these. So I'll tell you what the tarot cards said about these games. So the Riders got the Chariot card, which is the victor and inner drive, and it's like run your own race and ignore the haters, eye on the prize. The Red Blacks got a reversed Hangman, which just says like they're putting in a lot of effort and not seeing a return on that effort. So Riders.
Careful, you might get me believing in this stuff. So I take it you and the tarot pick Riders?
Yes.
Okay, then. Game 2, Hamilton at Toronto.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, GT.
Yeah, this is a tough one, only because one team needs it really bad and one team needs to rebound. So which team is able to which team is able to get it done? This is a real tough one. This is a really tough one. I'm going to go with Toronto. I am going to go with Toronto. No, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going with Hamilton. I think Hamilton will rebound. Yeah, well, I'm going with him.
I'll jump in because I have a feeling who MJ may take, and I'm going to be the contrarian. I think that Toronto, despite what happened in BC, overall the last few weeks, Toronto's been playing better. And it's in Toronto, so I'm going to pick them.
All right. So for the Ticats, they got the King of Pentacles, which is prosperity and abundance. Opportunities are there if you're hardworking, open, and earnest. The Argos got the Strength card, which is physical and inner strength, and you're dealing with challenging situations and you have the tools and you just need to use them. This kind of washed out. I pulled another card and it was the Wheel of Fortune card, so anyone's guess.
It just really confirmed the first 2 cards.
So it agreed with us.
It was just like this is just like, so I'll just pick the Ticats.
Okay. I can't wait for the cards on this last one, because this is another one that's, I honestly don't know. Calgary in BC, the second game on Saturday. Do
you want to wait for the cards, or do you want to?
Yeah, let the cards go first.
All right.
Sure, go. Let the cards go.
Okay, so the stamps got the star reversed. And so I wrote actually quite a lot because this was a very telling card and I think it really shows kind of what's going on there. So this is the kind of overarching theme is uninspired and in the dark and adrift. And they've lost sight of the path. You say you were feeling inspired and now you feel overwhelmed by the tasks at hand. It's a test of faith to see how far you're willing to go to overcome and see the vision through and like persevere through the darkness. And the Lions got the Death card reversed. So theirs is fear, uncertainty, and I think this one's for Rourke, though. I think it's a Rourke specific. It's like resisting change. It's like certainty's giving off a false sense of security, and accept change and move forward. You'll be surprised to see what's next. So, yeah. So one team's kind of drifting and one team's a little stuck in gear. But I'll take Lions.
Well, I'm going to use your cards to shore up my pick, even though I have to admit I don't actually see much to tarot, but I'm going to take the whole bit about embracing change on it all to be the fact that, well, the change in the last little bit has been the Lions are trending up and Calgary's trending down. And frankly, at home, I will not be surprised if I'm wrong on this, but at home, I got to take Nathan Rourke and BC.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea why, but I just feel like it's a squeaker of a win for the Stampeders.
It would not surprise me in the least. Yeah, no, and frankly, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a shootout and not so much of a squeaker if they came up, by 7-10 points. But it's so hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just feel like they're getting, hopefully they're getting Markel Lee back. And I think that's going to make a huge difference. I really think that their linebackers have not played up to par since he went down. They kind of were okay for a few games, but then it started to show. And I think he will, if he's able to come back, and Dickinson said he practiced full. I think that's going to make a big difference. Adding Malden there, getting those 2 tackles back. I think it just adds up to, but I also think BC is really playing good football right now. So I think that's why I say it's going to be a squeaker. I don't know what the score will be, but I think it's going to be a squeaker. And I just feel Calgary's going to pull it out.
Yeah, because if Calgary can get run stops with the front 7, that's a lot of what they were doing in the first half of the season. And that left the DBs freer to concentrate on coverage. And it feels like what's changed is that running game is just opened up, and that's now meaning you got to commit more people to it, and that's hurt the back end too. I agree with you. One player there could make a significant difference, and he did look good. And Calgary has a history of bringing in good linebackers. Okay. Well, there they are. Who knows? And I mean, the thing is, it's going to be...
That's the best line yet. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I figure we're going to all end up going like 1-2 for the weekend or something. I don't know what it is this year. I've heard it's not us. It's everybody I listen to talking about this going, I'm under 50% in pickup. I'm just over what's going on. Well, I guess that's about time to sign off then. Any closing thoughts and let people know where they can follow you?
Only I can say I'm looking at the timer and we're under 100 minutes.
Whoa. By the time I edit it, we'll be under 90.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we're giving everybody a break this week.
Yeah.
Only one show. And you can find us, as always, where you need to find us. And I'm at GT at bluesky.social.net, whatever.
I hope the Toronto Blues Jays are the only Toronto team that wins on Saturday. You can find me on Blue Sky at Sports and Plans.
Okay, good stuff. And I hope for a better weekend of football than we had last weekend. Every league has its duds, but I'm hoping we see stuff a lot more exciting. I will see anybody who's interested on Thursday. I'm going to keep doing the Old Man Plays Fantasy right through the end of the season, but it appears I even probably have a reason to keep doing it because I think I'm in the playoffs, as I said earlier. But that's about it, and I know I nagged on it earlier, but I'm going to do it again. Please subscribe on Podcatchers, on YouTube, on both. Give us a rating on Podcatchers. Give us a like on either of them. Comments, great. Help us all out. Please. We're enjoying doing this. Help us keep doing it. And so until next week, for GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying, get the hell off my lawn.